RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, I'm going to give you 5 possible waiver wire ads for Week 13 of the fantasy football season. Week 12 was a little bit of a rough one for a lot of fantasy teams. Not a lot of scoring in Week 12. Hopefully you scored enough to squeak out your games, as we're in a lot of crucial games late in the year, and every game counts even more right now because everyone's trying to get in the playoffs. Hopefully you're sitting pretty and ready to make a playoff run. If not, and you're looking for some players, here's 5 possible waiver wire ads for this week. My first one is Titans running back Dontrell Hilliard. Hilliard didn't start last week, but he still had a 100-yard performance, showed his big playability in the game. He led the Titans in rushing, ran 12 times for 131 yards and a touchdown. He showed breakaway speed in the game. He has 215 total yards his last 2 games. He's going to be a part of this offense for the rest of the year, and he's still available in 51% of leagues on our site. I know Dante Foreman's there as well, but I think Hilliard's a little more exciting fantasy option. I think both backs will be used a lot going forward, but Hilliard is the guy I'd rather have in my lineups right now. My next waiver wire adds another running back, Bills running back Matt Breida. Breida is getting more and more work in the Bills offense. He was the number 2 back last week with Zach Moss, a healthy scratch in the game. Breida responded with his second touchdown of the season, and it's his second touchdown in 3 games. He had 11 touches for 55 total yards and a score in Week 12. I think he's going to be getting around double-digit touches per week going forward. I think he's a decent ad for running back needy teams. He won't be a great weekly play, but maybe a good flex option for you in those deeper formats. My next waiver wire ad for this week is Texans quarterback Tyrod Taylor. He has multiple touchdowns 2 straight games. He's become a viable streaming option for fantasy teams, in my opinion, mainly because of his rushing ability, 23-plus rushing yards, 3 straight games. This really helps his weekly floor. Plus, the Texans don't run the ball well around the red zone, and Taylor's probably the best option for red zone carries. This gives him the ability for some rushing touchdowns. I think he's a good streaming quarterback for fantasy teams, so I would consider him in my lineup if you're looking for a quarterback in the next few weeks. My next waiver wire option is Lions receiver Josh Reynolds. Reynolds has been on the field an awful lot since signing with the Lions. He played 90% of the snaps 2 weeks ago, 88% of the snaps last week. I think he could really get most of the work at receiver as the number 1 option in this passing game. He caught 3 passes last week for 70 yards and a touchdown. He's very familiar with Jared Goff as his quarterback from playing with him in Los Angeles. And I think he could really be the top target for the Lions going forward. I think he's worth a speculative ad for receiver-needy fantasy teams. My last waiver wire option for this week is Titans receiver Nick Westbrook-Akine. The Titans are a mess at receiver right now. Julio Jones is hurt. A.J. Brown's hurt as well. Sorry for stumbling there a little bit. And Westbrook-Akine is kind of the last man standing in this offense. He played a team-high 83% of the snaps at receiver last week. He had a touchdown in that game last week, a 100-yard performance the previous week. I think he has some value as long as his receivers are hurt for Tennessee. So if you're beat up at receiver looking for some options, Westbrook-Akine is a guy I would consider adding for this week. Just remember, though, Tennessee is off this week. They have a bye. So both these players I mentioned would not be able to help you this week, but the following week. But it's never too early to start planning ahead, especially with a waiver wire that's hard to navigate at this point of the fantasy season. All right, those are my 5 waiver wire ads for Week 13 of the fantasy season. Hopefully you have great luck in navigating those waiver wires this week, and you win all those Week 13 fantasy games. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.